This Advent season, I have a special invitation to you, and that invitation is that you would journey with Mary during this season of Advent, that you would allow the Mother of God to be a steady companion as you watch and prepare for the Lord. And I say that because both Isaiah, our prophet Isaiah, and Mary had a profound knowledge of God. We hear in our first reading, Isaiah says very clearly, very plainly, "You are our Father. You are our Redeemer. That is your name." He understood who God was, and then he also had an understanding of who we were. Our reading concluded with, "We are the clay, you are the potter." And so Isaiah had this deep understanding of God, that he's Father, that he's Redeemer. But he also understood that we sometimes struggle to trust God. Even though he's Father, even though he's Redeemer, we sometimes struggle to trust him. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But Mary is such a beautiful person to journey with because of that image of the potter and the clay. You are the potter, we are the clay. Mary, in a marvelous way, allowed God to mold her and to form her. And because of that, she was the Mother of God. Because of that, she's the first and model disciple. Because of that, she's arrived in glory, the glory that God intended for her. We are the potter, and he is the potter, and we are the clay. I know oftentimes, it's when the Lord gives me inspirations, there's sometimes a struggle of, do I follow that inspiration to make that phone call, follow that inspiration to go out to that place where I'm needed. And sometimes I say yes, sometimes I struggle. But this journeying with Mary, inviting Mary to journey with us, to allow her to penetrate our hearts, to where she said, "Lord, be it done to me according to thy word." To journey with Mary during this time of Advent, because she too had a very profound knowledge of God. But even in that, she grew, because she would ponder and meditate on these things in her heart. And I want to get touch a bit on, the hardness of heart that Isaiah lamented, before getting back to what might this journey with Mary look like. In that reading from Isaiah, there's just this profound struggle. It's a little disorienting. First he says, you are our Father, you are our Redeemer. This idea that God is for us, that's your name, that's who you are. And then he goes on to say, yet we've hardened our hearts. You've allowed us to harden our hearts. He goes on to say, Lord, why do you let us wander far from you? So he recognizes that, there's times when we need to come back. There's times when we need to come back. And so the season, the church gives us this season of Advent to come back to the Lord. To come back to the Lord. And so we journey with Mary during this season of Advent, that she would show up, be an example of how to be molded by God. Because his works are beautiful. His works are beautiful. And Isaiah ended, we are the works of your hands. You are the potter, we are the clay. So in this idea of journeying with Mary, for those who have made the rosary part of your devotion, continue in that. For those who have not, part of this journeying with Mary might be to pray the rosary, or a decade of the rosary, or to pray the rosary each day. This journeying with Mary, it might mean, beginning the day saying, Mary, allow me to keep watch with you. Allow me to keep watch with you. Because that's what Jesus called us to. And Mary, when a mother is pregnant, she's preparing. She's waiting with expectation and joy and hope. And to allow Mary to share that with us as we make our own preparation, our own watching and waiting during Advent. So each morning, Mary, permit me to wait with you. And again, to let that attitude come into us. And then also to be mindful of this journeying with Mary, to be mindful of the beautiful feasts of Mary that we have during this month of December. You know, because of the pandemic, the holy days of obligations were dispensed from the obligation. But a week from Tuesday is the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, a beautiful feast of Our Lady, of, reminding us of an incredible work that God did in her life, in, who he was forming her to be. And even though there's no obligation to consider, journeying with Mary in her Immaculate Conception. So during this season of Advent, my invitation to you is to journey with Mary. The prophet Isaiah said, God, you are the potter, we are the clay. To allow ourselves to be molded by his word and to receive that word. And in that we have Mary as a model, that she was the one who allowed herself to be molded by God, and to take that attitude to ourselves as we journey with Mary in our preparation for the Lord's coming.